All right, so I just want to put together a quick video that outlines our selling process. So we have a lot of potential customers reach out and just want to understand from A to Z how this whole thing works. So I just wanted to put together a quick presentation that outlines it all. All right, so the first step is obviously getting in contact with us. So you can call us at our office at 704-727-6161. You can email us at info@m1propertygroup.com. Or you can fill out a web form at www.m1propertygroup.com and just submit your user information, and tell us a little bit about the property, and we can get in contact with you that way. All right, so once we've kind of established contact, we'll be looking to get some basic information about the property and yourself. So we'll look into things like the year built, the square footage of the property, the number of bedrooms and baths, the property conditions, what kind of repairs does it need? Have there been updates over the years? Are there any kind of major issues going on, like drainage or well and septic or electrical or plumbing or roofing and things like that, just to have an idea of what we're getting into. We'll ask you why you're selling. We'd like to ask that just so we have an idea how to formulate sort of a tailored solution for each of our sellers, because every situation is different, and we like to just know, what's going on and how we can best serve you. So I'll also ask your time frame. So, do we need to close in 3 days and really expedite this thing and push our closing attorney super hard to try to get everything knocked out? Or do we have some time? We've closed as quickly as I think 3 to 4 days in a foreclosure instance one time. And then I've waited at least over 60 days to let a couple, they are retiring and trying to find a place at the beach. And we just waited it out so that they weren't in any kind of rush on our end, I guess. So we'll also ask if it's your property's owner occupied or if it's a rental property. Obviously, if it's a rental, we'd like to know what the going rent rate is, what the lease terms are, are they month to month and that sort of thing. And then lastly, any specific issues we might need to know about. Are there going to be some challenges when it comes to the title? Are there any kind of liens or judgments or things like that we're going to need to be concerned with? All right, so we like to set up an appointment to go see the property. Just like most people, we'd like to go out and just put our eyes on exactly what we'd be looking to purchase. So we'd schedule an appointment at your preferred time. We can also coordinate with your tenants if necessary. So however it works out and whatever's easiest for you. Usually it's a brief 15 to 20 minute inspection. We'll do a walk through the interior, walk around the exterior, check out the yard, and then any outbuildings that might be on the property. This inspection simply lets us understand any necessary repairs that may be needed in the event we purchase the property. There's some properties we look at and they need minimum repairs. And then there's some we look at that are in, there's a lot of deferred maintenance and these sort of things that are real costs that we have to plan for. So that's why we do these walkthroughs. But the inspection also helps us understand the condition of the property relative to the condition of comparable properties being sold in the area. So if we see, properties that have been sold in the neighborhood, and the condition is similar to your property in the as-is condition, then we know, okay, that gives us an idea of what the value could be. However, if we see a discrepancy where the sales in the neighborhood are a certain condition, and the property we're looking at maybe is lacking updates or it needs a lot of repairs, then we know there's some sort of there's going to be some sort of difference there in the way we evaluate the overall value. So, lastly, but on the appointment, we can also answer any questions that you may have. So, on some appointments, we'll be in and out. And the sellers just tell us to, reach out once we've got our offer put together. But then in some cases, the sellers want to sit down, sit down on the couch or at the kitchen table or something like that. And we'll just talk through any kind of questions or concerns or anything they want to talk about. We'll make ourselves readily available to discuss. All right, so the next phase would be analysis. So basically this is moving in-house, and we're going to sit down and we're going to look at our photos from the inspection, any notes we took, things that caught our eye, things that do need to be repaired, and we'll start to kind of put together basically a repair estimate. And so we'll get the repair estimate together. And that's usually going to be based on our intended plans for the property. It could be we're going to use this as a rental property, or maybe we're going to renovate it and sell it at a later date. Or it could even be a new build project. We've looked at a lot of properties that maybe were in such condition, or maybe just due to the age and a smaller size, it made more sense to actually tear the property down and then build new construction. So we'll figure out what our strategy is going to be, and then we'll put together our estimate for construction or repairs based on that particular proposal. So we'll also then research the comparable sales of properties in the area that are of similar square footage, bed and bath count, condition, and typically within a half-mile radius, just like an appraiser would. And then we also looked that they've sold in the last 90 days. So we'll also consider market rental rates if we're considering it as a rental property. So basically what we're trying to do is look at what the condition of the property is that we noted during the inspection. Then we want to look at what's out there, what's selling currently within a half-mile radius. We're basically looking for the property's twin, so if your property has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, we're trying to find properties with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And if yours has a garage, we're looking for one that has a garage, and so on. So as we go through, we're trying to use that as our basis for formulating what we believe the as-is value of the property is, also taking into account the repairs that we came up with when we did our walkthrough. So with that, we'll calculate the as-is value and repair estimate, and then we can put together an offer for your property. Okay, so we'll move on to the offer. All the offers we do are going to be in writing, formal offers. We're not going to be sending you some random offer through a text or an email or something like that. They'll be formal offers. So we'll put that together, and that's going to outline the purchase price. It's going to have the earnest money deposit amount, the due diligence fee, the due diligence period, the closing attorney, which will always be Harry Marsh Law, the closing date that we've agreed upon, so that whether we're moving quickly or if you need more time on your closing date, we'll have that in there. And then any special provisions. So it could be moving cost assistance if that's something we've agreed upon. It could be if the seller's planning on leaving all the furniture in the house, if that's something we've agreed upon. But basically any special circumstances that are relative to your specific closing. All right, so let's say that we sent you an offer and we both agreed on everything and we've signed the offer. So at this point, we're going to be leading up to the closing. So what we'll do is we'll forward the signed offer agreement to the closing attorney. So that's going to go to Harry Marsh. Then the closing attorney is going to request buyer and seller information forms to be filled out. And so that's just basically generic forms they use for all their closings. So we'll fill out a form, the seller or you'll fill out a form, then we'll send that back to the attorney, and then they'll be able to kind of keep progressing through with the closing process now that they've got all the information they need. And just to say, we can actually assist with printing, dropping off, and delivering the seller information forms to the attorney as needed. And that really goes for any documentation throughout the closing process. We've dealt with sellers that didn't have printers. We've dealt with sellers that didn't have computers. We've dealt with sellers where being mobile it has been an issue. So we're well, we invite helping you in that capacity however we can. So however the case may be. But anyway, moving on, we'll deposit the earnest money deposit with the closing attorney, and then the closing attorney is going to begin their title search. So basically at this point, they're going to be looking for anything that could cloud the title. That would be anything like mortgages, basically anything that's relative to money being owed to somebody. So mortgages, any kind of loans, any kind of liens or judgments or anything like that. So they're going to be searching for all those so that we understand fully what all needs to be paid off in order to ensure clear title is passed. So at that point, say as we're moving along and getting closer to the closing date, the attorney is actually going to request, if there are mortgages on the property, they're going to request the payoff amounts from the banks or from the mortgage companies, so they know the exact balance they need to transfer on the day of closing so that those loans are fully paid off. At some point through this process, we'll schedule any inspections or walkthroughs with our contractors at your time of preference. Basically, at this point, we'd like to get a detailed plan together for what we plan to do with the property, and we'll be getting estimates and bids and that sort of thing as we anticipate the closing date coming up. Anyway, then we'll confirm the closing date with the closing attorney. So we'll get on their schedule. And then at this point, you as a seller would call to shut off any utilities if that's applicable. Sometimes there's no utilities turned on at these properties that we purchase. And then you would be in a position where you need to arrange to move to the next property. So we can assist, however, we can in that capacity. We've helped sellers find, whether it's a rental or trying to find the next property or trying to get connected to a realtor or whatever the case may be. We'll come to bat for you and try to help you in any way we can there. All right, so let's say we're at the day of closing. We've made it through all the previous steps. So this is actually what we're all geared up for. So basically, we're going to confirm you've removed all the belongings from the property. We're not going to close if you still have furniture and things like that in there, unless we've agreed on items to be left behind in the property. So we'll confirm all belongings are gone. Then we'll do a final walkthrough just prior to closing to ensure the condition has not changed. And that's just to fully ensure we know what we're closing on. As you can imagine, things can take place. I've heard of a buyer. There was one time they closed on a house. It was actually the day after closing, but a tree fell on the house the day after closing. But the reason we do these walkthroughs, if anything like that happens just before closing. So if there was a major water leak or water damage or fire damage or something that happened like a day before or 2 days before, obviously we'd want to know about that. So we do a final walkthrough just to make sure we're buying the property in the condition that we had signed the purchase agreement for. So we'll do the final walkthrough. Then the seller is going to sign their documents. So this is actually the closing documents. The attorney will have these all prepared for you. Usually that's going to be the deed, the HUD settlement statement, which outlines all the math saying where the funds are coming from, who's responsible for what. And then there'll actually be the 1099, which the attorney usually releases a 1099 anytime a owner sells a property. So you can either choose to sign those documents in person at the attorney's office, or you can actually pre-sign using a mobile notary service, or even go into somewhere like a FedEx where they have a notary and you can sign your documents that way. Then you can actually have them scan documents or overnight the documents directly to the attorney's office from there. So there's multiple options there. We've had plenty of sellers will do it different ways. Some prefer to go to the actual physical closing, go to the office, sit down at the closing table. And then we have some sellers that just prefer, not to have to go through that and just they'll sign the documents with the mobile notary at their work or at home or wherever the case may be and then it's just a remote closing basically. So however you like to do it, we can accommodate that. So, but we'll sign our documents as a buyer. So that's usually going to be the HUD settlement statement and then any other applicable documents relative to that closing. The seller is going to provide the keys to the closing attorney to hold until after closing is complete. So basically the closing attorney is going to kind of be the referee waiting to get everything worked out. And then in the end, he's going to close everything. So he's holding on to the keys. And then we'll wire the closing funds to the closing attorney to hold in their trust account. So that sets in a special account. They wait till everything's been done in a legal fashion to actually release the funds to you as the seller. So then next, the attorney is going to record the deed at the courthouse in the county of the property. So this is actually the legal transfer of the property. So once it's actually documented that a new deed has taken place for a particular parcel, this is when the new ownership or transfer of ownership takes place legally. And at this point, we would be the new owner. So upon recording, the closing attorney will release the funds from the trust account to the seller. So that would be basically the deed's been recorded at the courthouse, and now funds are getting released, going to you as the seller. And you can actually choose to either get those through an electronic wire, so that would go directly into your bank account. You can get a check mailed to you. You might not live close to the closing attorney's office, or maybe you don't want to do the electronic wire option, or you can pick up a check at the closing attorney's office. Okay, so now let's say that the closing is complete. The deed was recorded. The wire was sent to you. You got your funds in your account. Basically, the closing is done at that point. So the closing attorney is then going to release the keys to the property to us as the new owner. and you're going to have your funds, and then you get to move on after an easy, no hassle closing, and then we'll roll up our sleeves and get ready to start working on the property. So, lastly, just kind of wrapping up here. So these are just some generic questions that we get in a lot of cases, and I just thought it'd be good to wrap up with these. So, how long does it typically take to close? So, we can be flexible. We just need to know your intended schedule and any urgency that may be required in order to close quickly. So it does take a lot of legwork to close within a matter of days, mostly from the legal standpoint, doing the title search, deed preparation, these things like that, the actual closing process, and working with the attorney on that, because obviously the attorney, they have their own schedule with other closings going on. So trying to squeeze that in a quick time frame does take a little legwork, but it can be done. But then we just need to know what your preferences is, and that's usually what we work toward. So if you want to close in 60 days, we'll plan on that. Or if you need to close in a few days, then we'll take the special steps we need to make that happen. So, what type of offer is it that we're sending? So, in the majority of cases, we're actually sending cash offers. And the one thing I'll say is every now and then we will have a seller that would like to earn a return on their money simply because they don't know where else to invest the cash or where they're going to actually put it. So we can provide owner financing offers in these situations. And just as in a quick example, it's basically, in a case, say we're talking to a landlord and they're selling a rental property and they've been used to getting that rental income every single month, getting a return on their investment. And now we're going to give them cash for the property, and all of a sudden that return stops. They're getting 0% interest unless they place that money somewhere else. So they kind of scratch their head and think, well, if I owner financed it to this person, it's almost like I still have a rental, but I'm not dealing with tenants anymore. So basically, they keep their ROI going on that particular property by owner financing it. And in that case, they don't have to worry about trying to place that money in another property and kind of starting over in terms of an investment. So we can put together owner financing offers in the event that our sellers are interested in those particular offer types. Do you purchase as is? Yes. So we're actually a general contractor, so we'll take care of all that stuff. You don't have to worry about making any repairs or dealing with contractors or anything like that. All right. So who does your closings? Like I mentioned a little bit ago. All our properties are purchased through a licensed closing attorney. Every single one of them. There's no question about that. We use Harry Marsh Law. We've been working with them for over 5 years now, I believe. So you can actually check them out at the website, www.harrymarshalaw.com. But highly professional, reputable, and they understand difficult real estate transactions. A lot of the properties we get into, usually there can be complex issues. There can be complicated liens or judgments, or there could be multiple heirs or unknown heirs, people that we're having a hard time getting in touch with, and these sort of things. But Harry and his team are very, very good, very detailed about getting through these hard and complicated closings. So that's really why we like to use them. Your average closing attorney is mostly doing really simple closings that don't have all these complex issues that we're dealing with. So that's why we lean on them so much. All right. So there are any commissions or closing costs? So no, there's no commissions. We're buying direct from you. So that's basically a for sale by owner purchase. So there's not going to be realtor commissions, which is basically saving you 6% of your sale price. That's typically going to be 3% that goes to the listing agent and 3% that goes to the buyer's agent. So you're saving that 6%. And then no, there's no closing cost either. So in our offers, we actually pay your closing cost, all your closing costs as a seller, and then we pay for all our buyer closing costs. So we're never going to have it in our offer where we're requesting you as a seller to pay any kind of our closing costs, which can be standard in some traditional sales using realtors and a traditional buyer and that sort of thing. So no commissions and no closing costs. All right, so just wrapping this up here. I just say thanks for taking the time to check out this video. I hope you found it helpful. We do get a lot of questions on this general process, so I thought it could just be useful to a lot of our potential customers. If you do have further questions or want to discuss your property, feel free to reach out. Again, you can contact us at 704-727-6161. That's our office line. You can email us at info@m1propertygroup.com, or you can check us out at our website and fill out a web form at www.m1propertygroup.com. So again, I appreciate you checking out the video, and I look forward to working together. Thanks.